There's a version of Jenna Hager that most people recognize, polished, warm, always in command of the room. She interviews queens and presidents. She launches books, produces television, and hosts one of the most-watched morning programs in the country. She does all of it with a smile that feels entirely genuine. So when that composure cracked on live television, not gradually, but suddenly, unexpectedly, right in the middle of a sentence, it stopped people in their tracks. The moment happened on the morning of April 30th, 2026, during a live episode of Today with Jenna and Chanel. And it wasn't a prepared emotional segment. It wasn't a heartfelt tribute or a scripted confession. It was something far more raw than that. It was a working mother, in the middle of what looked like a routine conversation about her schedule, suddenly realizing she couldn't hold back what she'd been carrying quietly for weeks. What made it land so hard wasn't just the tears. It was the timing. Because in the days and weeks leading up to that moment, Jenna's professional calendar had been operating at a level that would exhaust almost anyone. She had recently sat down with Queen Camilla at the New York Public Library, just one day before this episode aired, as part of the British monarch's official state visit to the United States with King Charles. Before that, she had interviewed all 4 living former presidents, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, her own father George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton, as part of the History Talks program. On top of all of that, she had been actively shooting a scripted drama pilot for NBC, managing her read with Jenna Book Club, running her Thousand Voices publishing imprint through Random House, and appearing in cameos for both Devil Wears Prada 2 and an upcoming Peacock series called The 5-Star Weekend. That is not a schedule. That is a full television season compressed into a single spring. And through all of it, Jenna had been showing up every morning, holding the show together, presenting her most composed and capable self to the world. The outside world saw the highlights. What she was carrying on the inside was something else entirely. So on that Thursday morning, she sat down across from her co-host Chanel Jones and started talking about what came next. She explained that she had been working non-stop, the pilot shooting, the big interviews, the book releases, and that when she woke up that morning, she had made a decision. The next few weeks, the next few months, were going to be kid-focused. She said it the way people say things when they've finally given themselves permission to breathe. And then she kept talking. She started trying to explain what that looked like in practice, how she wanted to show up differently, how she wanted to be more present for her children. She mentioned her 10-year-old daughter, Poppy. And that's where the sentence stopped. Her voice faltered. The words didn't come. And then quietly she said, "Now I'm crying. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's because I haven't been able to." She trailed off. That sentence, the one she couldn't finish, said more than any completed thought could have. Because what was sitting at the end of it wasn't something complicated. It was the simple, familiar guilt of a mother who felt she hadn't been enough for one of her kids. Not a crisis. Not a tragedy. Just the quiet, accumulated weight of too many days where work won and family waited. There is something in that moment that cuts through every layer of celebrity and public image and touches something deeply human. Chanel Jones didn't miss a beat. She leaned over and wrapped her arms around her co-host right there on set. And she said, "We can't do it all at the same time." The weight of those words was not lost on anyone watching. Because Chanel Jones is not someone who says that lightly. She has been raising 3 children on her own since the death of her husband, Uche Ojei, in May of 2025. Ojei battled glioblastoma, a devastating form of brain cancer, for 18 months before he passed. Chanel had spoken publicly about how the Today family surrounded her during that time, even before the rest of the world knew what she was going through. Al Roker brought breakfast sandwiches into hospice. Savannah Guthrie was there after Uchei's first surgery. These are not co-workers. These are people who showed up when it mattered. So when Chanel sat across from Jenna and said we can't do it all at the same time, she wasn't reading from a script. She was speaking from a place of lived, painful truth. 2 women at a morning show desk, one navigating grief, one overwhelmed by the weight of her own success, holding each other up in real time on live television for all of America to see. Chanel acknowledged to the audience that what had just happened was real and unscripted. She said simply, "You guys, we just had a moment collectively, but it's okay." Which might be the most quietly perfect thing anyone has said on morning television in a long time. And then Jenna did what she almost always does. She found the humor in it. She pretended to lie down on the studio table as if she were at a therapist's office, which got the laugh and softened the moment without erasing it. Then she said, "We're okay. It may look like everything's great, but things are falling apart." That line landed exactly right, because it wasn't really a joke. It was the kind of thing people say when they've just revealed something real and don't quite know where to put it. The audience felt that. Anyone watching at home felt it too. The fact that the emotional breaking point centered on Poppy, and not one of her other children, added another quiet layer to the moment. Jenna and her husband Henry Hager have 3 kids, Mila, who is 13, Poppy, who is 10, and Hal, who is 6. Mila, the eldest, had apparently already made her presence known during her mother's Queen Camilla interview prep, telling Jenna she was talking too much about herself and that her hair needed work. Hal is the youngest, the baby of the family. Poppy is the middle child, the one most likely to go quiet when things get busy. The one Jenna was thinking about when she woke up that morning and decided things needed to change. There's something honest about that. She could have used that morning segment to promote any one of a dozen projects. She had every reason to stay surface level. Instead, something real broke through. She wasn't performing vulnerability. She stumbled into it. And that's precisely why it resonated the way it did. Across social media, and in the days that followed, the response was largely one of recognition. Working parents, mothers especially, responded to clips of the moment with a kind of immediate, personal understanding. The feeling she was describing is one that millions of people carry around without naming it, the moment you realize that the life you've been building professionally has quietly taken more than you intended from a life you're building at home. It doesn't announce itself. It waits until you're in the middle of a sentence on live television, and then surfaces whether you're ready for it or not. What this moment also quietly revealed is the human cost of Jenna Bush Hager's ambition. And make no mistake, that ambition is something to admire. She has built something genuinely remarkable. The author, the book club founder, the publisher, the television producer, the journalist who interviews heads of state. But ambition at that level doesn't leave everything behind it untouched. And Jenna has always known that. She's spoken before about how being a mother has taught her how enormous the human heart can be, how there is simply no love like it. She knows what matters. That morning, she reminded herself of it in front of millions of people, without meaning to. And somehow, that made it more meaningful, not less. The moment also put a spotlight on the evolving dynamic between Jenna and Shaynell as a co-hosting pair. This partnership is still relatively new. After Hoda Kotb's departure from the show in January of 2025, the 4th hour of Today cycled through roughly 60 guest co-hosts over the course of the year. Shaynell Jones was formally named permanent co-host in December of 2025, and the show relaunched under its current title, Today with Jenna and Shaynell, in January of 2026. So in many ways, these two are still in the process of building something together. But that April 30th episode made clear that what they have is not just professional chemistry. Shaynell herself has said it plainly, it's not pretend. The hug she gave Jenna that morning was proof of that. Not a polished television hug. A real one. By the end of the segment, Jenna had regained her composure. And she mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that Poppy was actually on her way to the studio, which was maybe the best possible note for that story to end on. Not a resolution exactly, but a reminder that the things we feel guilty about are often still within reach. Poppy was coming. The hard part was already over. Or at least, a different kind of hard part was beginning. The kind where you slow down enough to actually be present. That small detail landed as something close to hope. And that's what separated this moment from the dozens of emotional television clips that get shared and forgotten within a single news cycle. This one had texture. It had real context, the impossible schedule, the royal interview the day before, the pilot in production, the books releasing, the guilt quietly building underneath all of it. It had Shaynell Jones, whose own grief gave her hug a weight that viewers understood without anyone having to spell it out. And it had Jenna herself, someone who has spent years being warm and capable and composed on morning television, letting something true come through in one unguarded minute. There's something worth holding on to in all of this, regardless of where you are in your own life. The idea that keeping it together on the outside while quietly falling apart on the inside isn't failure. It's just the reality of a full life. And every so often, even the most together-seeming people let that truth surface. Sometimes in private, sometimes on live television at 10 in the morning. Jenna Bush Hager didn't plan that moment. She couldn't have. But it may be one of the most honest things she's ever said on that show. And judging by the response, it hit home for a lot of people who needed to hear it. If this story resonated with you, whether it's the working parent guilt, the Today Show dynamic, or just what you thought of that live moment, drop your thoughts in the comments below. It's worth the conversation. If you found value in this video, a like helps more people find stories like this one. Subscribe if you want to stay current, and hit the notification bell so you never miss when we post. We'll see you in the next one.